And welcome back to coverage here of the Players Tour Finals. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. Paul, we're down the stretch now. We're well past the halfway point here in our top 8, and that means that it is time for the upper finals, where we have Christoph Prince sitting across from Riku Kumagai on our virtual stage here. Let's head on down, and we'll get you briefed on the matchup when we get into the match.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting. Riku actually played against Christoph Prince during the Swiss portion and had a pretty decisive 2-0 victory. We actually saw this match being featured where Christoph's key sideboard sweeper in Solar Blaze did absolutely nothing against Riku's board.
That's right. It was it was awkward, for Christoph there. It's interesting to see the subtle decisions that like Riku's made, for example, and how they can play out in different ways. That was one of them. Riku Kumagai, of course, playing mono black aggro versus Christoph Prince on 4-color Reclamation. The winner of this match, by the way, Paul, will advance to the championship match. The lower finals awaits the loser of this. These players haven't actually had a loss on the day yet, so this is not an elimination match for them. It's just a question of, do you get to go right into the championship match, or do you have to keep fighting it out in the lower finals?
Yes. And Riku here, looks like he mulliganed, but a reasonable start here, just kind of getting off to a quick start here. Christoph on the draw, unable to break serve on the mana front with Growth Spiral.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty big deal, especially given that it's just tap land go here, which is going to let that Spawn of Mayhem come down this turn, a turn early.
Yeah, and Christoph's probably going to try to basically buy a turn here with Fairy Time Raveler, bounce the Spawn of Mayhem back to hand, draw a card, and just try to stabilize here and just kind of prevent a little bit of damage.
Yeah, you can see how that could play out here. 15 life for Christoph Prince, but one of these creatures is going to go at Teferi this turn most likely. And if that's the case, well, there's already a Wilderness Reclamation in hand, and you can see negate, Growth Spiral, and even a Shark Typhoon to put out a big blocker in a turn or two. You could see this turning around for Christoph from here. Yeah, no, he's in a really solid position here. I mean, Riku's got these 3 creatures in play, but what Christoph can do here is run out Wilderness Reclamation, play out a Growth Spiral, continue developing your mana, and also use Petty Theft here to bounce the Spawn of Mayhem back to Riku's hand. Right, Petty Theft too, so lots of options now for Christoph. Things looking actually pretty good. Oh, and it looks like this is actually very heads up. If your plan is to bounce the Spawn of Mayhem anyways, you want to do it at the end of your turn so you don't get that trigger from the Spawn of Mayhem and take that 1 point of damage. Right, and you know how close these games can get. 1 point of damage might not seem like a whole lot at surface, but it is actually very relevant when things get really close down the stretch. It was actually really big, additionally, because Knight of the Ebon Legion's on the battlefield. So had he gone for the Brazen Borrower on Riku's turn, he would have taken 4 damage, and an additional counter would have been placed on the Knight. Great point, Paul. There's Hunted Nightmare coming down, doing what it's done for the majority of this tournament, just be a 4/5 for 3. But that looks pretty good. This is going to be a giant shark, by the way. Yeah, very big shark. The Hunted Nightmare, though, again, an interesting choice from Kumagai, but you get to see how it plays out. Even the biggest shark here is not going to be able to get in front of that spawn. Yeah, the Hunted Nightmare. Yeah, I really like the decision of Riku choosing to go for Hunted Nightmare there over the Spawn of Mayhem, because you might be tempted to run out the spawn, right? Because you do get to deal an additional point of damage from the upkeep trigger, but this allows you to play around a giant Shark Typhoon token. Now, with the menace on Hunted Nightmare and the ability to give Knight of the Ebon Legion Death Touch, Christoph, if he doesn't really have great blocks here. Interestingly, he found a Growth Spiral, which still leaves him live to draw something to interact, maybe another Brazen Borrower or something. Yeah, he could find something like that. I mean, maybe he's looking for an Expansion Explosion, but he's going to take a lot of damage here. I mean, he's unable to block the Hunted Nightmare. Riku might just choose to attack with everything here. Oh, wow. Yeah, a block on the Knight of the Ebon Legion would still have Christoph taking 6 damage. And this would be a lethal attack here if Christoph
Kristoff choose bounce the Gutter Bones, Riku does have the option here of just double pumping Knight of the Ebon Legion for the win. So he has to block the Ebon Legion.
Yeah, it's a bigger threat for sure. So there's the block, 6 damage. Is going to knock Kristoff down to 4.
And Riku now debating whether or not he wants to kill the shark. Probably does. That would make him spend the 3 mana. Additionally, he can just choose to get the damage in and just try to resolve 2 Spawn of Mayhems. And that's what he's thinking about here.
He's going to pump.
So now the Spawn of Mayhem's going to get disputed here, and Kristoff Prince just really needs to find a way to deal with this Hunted Nightmare, which would then buy him another turn here.
This is a huge turn sequence now for Kristoff. He needs to find some way to deal with that Nightmare, and it can't be a single creature. Uro would give him some time. Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, no. Look at this. A Dovin's Veto and a Negate. These are the cards that he packed for Temur Reclamation, and that is exactly what Riku Kumagai is preying on here. He gets the job done in game number 1 when you see a few too many reaction spells in hand there for Kristoff Prince.
Yeah, he was really looking for, I guess, you know, Shark Typhoon or maybe an Expansion Explosion there to try to get that Hunted Nightmare off the battlefield.
Really nice stuff there from Riku Kumagai, who has been very impressive throughout the course of this tournament, not only finding himself in the top 8 here, but doing it in an impressive fashion. The deck that nobody else was playing. This is mono black aggro, including some really interesting choices. I mean, honestly, Paul, if you told me, hey, mono black aggro did well in this tournament and I hadn't seen any of it, I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, Rotting Regisaur seems really good against Temur Rec. Yeah, that makes sense. And then if you told me, oh, no, not playing any copies of Rotting Regisaur at all, I would have been like, huh? And, you know, when you start going down the list of cards, you can tell that Riku put some time in to really make sure to choose the cards that matched up best against the field rather than just sort of the default best cards at their mana cost.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not expecting a whole lot of other creature decks, I mean, Hunted Nightmare giving your opponent's creatures Death Touch isn't really all that important. So we've just seen how the sizing of that creature has been so important in these matchups.
All right, kick things off with Gutter Bones here for Riku Kumagai, looking to pick up this game or the next to find himself in the championship match. The cleanest route to victory. Here's Agonizing Remorse, and this is something that we've seen time and time again from Riku, the ability to tear apart the hand of the opponent using cards like Duress, Agonizing Remorse, and Kitesail Freebooter. This one seems particularly relevant that it's Agonizing Remorse given the presence of Uro in hand here.
Yeah, curious to see what he goes for here. He does have the answer to Uro in multiple copies of Heartless Act, but it will allow Kristoff to kind of develop his mana. Alternatively, he could consider taking one of the removal spells.
Yeah, you could take Deafening Clarion to try to protect a future board, but as it sits, he's going to go ahead and take away the Uro. Ooh, Growth Spiral.
Yeah, I mean, the very nice thing about taking the Uro there is Agonizing Remorse does exile, meaning that there is no way that you'll be able to escape the Uro, which could be very relevant later in the game.
Kristoff's going to play a Hollowed Fountain untapped here, which will give him access to Justice Strike if he feels the need to play that card this turn. Also of note, the Scorching Dragonfire did deal with Gutter Bones and did so permanently, so that one's not going to be coming back. So right now, the player's going blow for blow, and yeah, looks like a close one forming here, potentially.
Yeah, this is a bit unfortunate here. Riku really wanted a land, but it looks like he's going to be missing land drop number 3 here.
So, oh, this is interesting.
Whoa.
So Kristoff Prince, also with that untapped land, able to cycle a Triumph, though I'll admit, Paul, I didn't actually view that as an option just because of how important land drops are in this deck.
I also did not see that coming. I thought he was going to cast Growth Spiral there and put the Triumph in play. One interesting thing about Justice Strike and how it interacts with Knight of the Ebon Legion is if Riku Kumagai chooses to actually pump Knight of the Ebon Legion, Justice Strike will actually kill Knight of the Ebon Legion because Knight of the Ebon Legion will get Death Touch.
Funny.
And Justice Strike says target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power.
Right, then that damage would have the property the Death Touch has and it would die. But if Kumagai doesn't, then he can't kill it with Justice Strike. That's pretty funny. All right, so Duress goes on the stack, but we're going to see a Growth Spiral and then a Growth Spiral. And it's going to take away one of these two removal spells.
My guess is that probably go for the... No, well, he might just go for the Justice Strike here because the Clarion only is really going to kill the 1-drop. And if you can get the spawn in play, the Clarion won't do anything to that.
That's right. Justice Strike is a way to kill the 4/4 Spawn of Mayhem, but Deafening Clarion does not hit it. So yes, he is going to take Justice Strike away and try to set up for the Spawn of Mayhem. Now, as we know, he's going to have to connect with that Knight of the Ebon Legion again. He also needs to find a third land here to make that work. I got to feel like Riku's feeling a lot of pressure to find that land next turn. Like, that's where things can really start going great for him.
Definitely. And now Kristoff debating whether or not he wants to use this Glass Casket. I think it makes sense to use it here, given that Riku took the Clarion. You have to be thinking Riku's trying to set up a Spawn of Mayhem here, and by getting the Knight off the battlefield, you at least get to delay that if Riku does draw land number 3. Because currently Kristoff just does not have an answer to a Spawn of Mayhem. Sure, it might cost 3 mana to cast, but the converted mana cost, of course, is 4.
So there you go. You see the Glass Casket take care of that, and then the Deafening Clarion to kill Timuret. And so far, no board left here for Riku Kumagai. The only good news is there's no hand for Kristoff Prince.
And he got something. You saw Riku. He was thinking, well, when else am I going to fire this Duress?
Yeah.
Once that's the issue with hand disruption. When the games go late like this and your opponent's just kind of drawing off the top of their deck, you start wondering, well, should I be using hand disruption? Like, should I be waiting for a better moment? But oh no, this is going to be rough. That's a top deck Shark Typhoon. We all know Duress in hand disruption doesn't oh, wow.
Wow, look at this.
Man.
Another Shark Typhoon into a Teferi. I'll tell you, thinking about Standard, this deck is one of the best decks I've ever seen in Standard at restarting the engine, right? Like, if I give this Teamer Rec deck or this 4-color Rec deck, 5 lands, so here's 5 mana, but your hand's gone, go. This is one of the best decks I've seen at getting going again. It's just like every card in the deck buys you another card, including all 3 that he's got out of the last 3 draw steps.
Look at this, another Shark Typhoon.
Beautiful stuff here. Now he can send back this Hunted Nightmare, start attacking with the Shark. There's an expansion Explosion. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a ton of mana to dump into it at this point, but things starting to really shape up here for Kristoff Prince. This draw has just been very awkward for Riku Kumagai.
And that's the thing about these Reclamation decks, because they're playing Uros and Growth Spirals and really just trying to get a bunch of lands onto the battlefield. There is no deck in the format that has better top decks than the Reclamation decks, because the entire deck is built around trying to get Wilderness Reclamation in play and using the mana that you get from that to cast giant explosions, make giant Shark tokens. So when you're in these situations where Kristoff gets those 6 lands in play fairly early, all of a sudden, every turn is a scary draw step.
Looks like Riku's considering running out Rankle here. This is kind of awkward too. Did the Heartless Act just get kind of nerfed?
Oh, is that a...
I think it's a Death Touch counter from the...
It did. You cannot kill it with the Heartless Act.
Kind of awkward.
Yeah, and now things. Now Kristoff firmly in the driver's seat here. He has the option to Explosion for 3. So if Riku runs out If Riku runs out Rankle, this is going to be really tough. I mean, well, also he can just Shark Typhoon for 5 here, right? And just eat the Rankle too.
He can do either one. That might even be better, although it doesn't, actually it does put lethal, doesn't it? Because it's 5/9 and then he can just explosion for 2. So this is going to be game here.
Yeah.
Just block Rankle, 9U, and then 2U with the expansion explosion.
Or more, now that he drew the Reclamation.
Yeah, sure. Go for extra credit, I like it.
Yeah.
Might be a bad idea.
All right, and that is going to be GG here. Riku Kumagai falling to Christoph Prince in game number 2. But since he won game number 1, we're going to get a game 3, and Riku Kumagai is going to be on the play for this game to decide who makes it into the championship match straight away. The loser of this, though, is not out of the tournament. I want to remind you of that. They dropped down to the lower finals. So a lot on the line still, but not the entire tournament for these players.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the first times we've seen Riku's deck kind of stumble a little bit, right? We've seen him just being able to curve out beautifully with 1-drops into hand disruption. But there, I mean, he stumbled a bit. And Christoph additionally rattling off those Shark Typhoons back to back to back. So big.
Yeah, those were huge. All of a sudden it was 2 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 1, and you couldn't really see a way back for Riku after having stumbled. By the way, you see Riku sipping on some coffee or some tea or something there as well. He's been going at it since about 1:30 a.m. his time. It's about 6:30 in the morning, coming up on 6:30 in the morning in Japan right now. So Riku Kumagai really kind of battling through here. I'm impressed that he's been able to keep his focus and such. I don't know if he did any prep for that, perhaps altering his sleep schedule a little bit over the last few days, but good on him for keeping the battle alive.
One really interesting note, by the way, in how Christoph sideboarded, he kept in, or rather, he sideboarded in Spectral Sailor in this matchup. Now, that is typically a card you really wouldn't expect to see against an aggressive strategy.
Yeah, too.
But I think there were some adjustments that Christoph made, because we've seen that Riku chooses to keep in a lot of removal in this matchup, right? So cards like Kenrith, which were typically cards that allow you to go over the top against aggressive strategies, are simply just mana inefficient, right? You go down on mana, you spend 5 mana, tap out, play a Kenrith, boom, they Heartless Act, feels bad. However, now Christoph has access to Spectral Sailor, and given that your opponent's playing with the card Hunted Nightmare, all of a sudden you can surprise your opponent and play a 1-mana flash creature, which then becomes a 1-mana, 1/1 flying Death Touch creature.
Man, how much respect is that for the Hunted Nightmare, right? I mean, that's a really clever solution, but it really shows the distance people will go to try to get that thing off the battlefield. That's insane. Oh, no. Down to 5 for Riku Kumagai. All he has is Knight of the Ebon Legion into Kitesail Freebooter with a couple of lands, and this could be over very quickly, although now that I say that, there's a Knight of the Ebon Legion there. This Kitesail Freebooter can take away the Growth Spiral?
Yeah, but Christoph can't even play it next turn. I wonder if he's going to just take, like, the Shark Typhoon, because Justice Strike doesn't actually do anything here.
Right.
So maybe just let Christoph draw some cards and hope he bricks and just try to kill him with your creatures?
I like that plan from you. I like the Shark Typhoon because, yeah, sure, you Growth Spiral, but if you don't have anything to do with it.
Right, because he's not going to be able to Growth Spiral next turn anyways. If you take it, on the following turn, Christoph can just play Uro instead.
Right, so you're not actually even disrupting what he wants to do. Of course, unless Christoph draws an untapped blue or green source, but still.
Yeah, I mean, if Christoph can find a forest or a breeding pool here, of course it'll be huge.
He took Justice Strike, so this tells me that that Kumagai thinks that he needs to resolve something else. The trio of creatures that he's got here are not going to get the job done. Murderous Rider off the top now, and we're going to see Knight of the Ebon Legion get pumped, which is going to get the counters flowing and start hitting for damage.
Get in there. Didn't he do this exact same thing against Christoph?
He did, and remember that one Knight of the Ebon Legion went the distance. Can it happen again? You know, another thing to keep in mind with taking away the strike here is the point that you brought up in the last game, Paul, that if Riku says, I need to be pumping this Knight of the Ebon Legion to get the job done, I can't let you keep a removal spell that kills it if I pump.
Oh, wow, and that is a great draw here off the top. Spawn of Mayhem, additional pressure being applied to you, and Kristoff doesn't really have the answers here right now.
No, here's a Solar Blaze, but that's not enough either. That could take care of the spawn.
Right, but I mean, this happened in the last match too, and we actually
totally
saw Kristoff. Kristoff had Solar Blaze in his sideboard for game 2 and brought it in for game 3. So understanding that the card is not the end-all be-all in this specific creature matchup.
Okay, Growth Spiral.
I think we're going to see a Solar Blaze here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to take out the big 4/4 flyer, but once again, the shields are down. And look at that, another Spawn of Mayhem off the top of the library as well. So now Riku's deciding, well, am I on the plan where I just keep pumping up this Knight of the Ebon Legion and jamming, or am I trying to get the Spawn of Mayhem back down again?
Yeah, Kristoff has so many good draws here, but he does need to find something because keep in mind, Riku also has Murderous Rider in hand for the big Shark Typhoon token that Kristoff could make next turn.
Huge moment here for Kumagai to decide if he wants to pump or not. He says, nope. I'm going to play another copy of Spawn of Mayhem. There's Expansion Explosion off the top. He can do that for 3. That actually doesn't seem like the worst, although, boy, he's really falling behind here, isn't he?
Yeah, so he could do it for 3 to kill the Knight of the Ebon Legion, but he would have to shock in order to do so. Go down to 9. Spawn puts him down to 8, and then he takes 5 and goes to 3.
Yeah, that does not sound good.
But
I don't know what his other options are, but that does not sound good.
Right. I mean, the other option is, of course, cycling Shark Typhoon here for 5 and hoping that that's good enough. We all know that it isn't because of the Murderous Rider. Riku did double mulligan, so maybe there's a higher chance he doesn't have a removal spell here. But not great options here for Kristoff.
Wow. Is Riku Kumagai going to steal this match off of a mulligan to 5
He
here?
just might.
Gutter Bones was the draw for the turn.
I mean, you can't really be afraid of too much here with this Murderous Rider in your hand.
No.
And again, Riku knows about the Shark Typhoon. So he gets in. Murderous Riders the Shark Typhoon. Now, Kristoff actually, knowing that a removal spell could be happening, he could Shark Typhoon for 2 and then cast Expansion to copy a removal spell to redirect one of the removal effects back to one of Riku's creatures.
Okay, now that's an interesting line you found there, Paul. That's really interesting. Let's see if that's what Kristoff's plan is. Boy, this is a tough spot. Kumagai currently has Spawn of Mayhem and Knight of the Ebon Legion lined up to attack.
And look at this, Riku doesn't even want to be put in that awkward position because he knows of the Shark Typhoon. Is he going to not attack? He's thinking about it.
He certainly is. Wow. Because that would be what would happen, right? You would block the Kite Sail Freebooter or kill it, and then you would have a removal spell for the spawn if you have enough life.
See, so that's the thing. Riku knows about the Shark Typhoon, right? So
he is doing it for 2, Paul.
He is, because and that's why Riku didn't attack immediately, because he thought, wait, what's going on here? What could he have? Maybe
Yeah.
Shark Typhoon plus a 2-mana card.
So here's a Murderous Rider, but Expansion can copy that Swift End and can take out either of their creatures. Wow, good eye, by the way, Paul.
Big.
Finding that line. Kristoff Prince all over it himself. And I think Kumagai even figured out that this was a possibility. But boy, oh boy, 3 damage comes in. There's a trigger.
I think we can Uro now.
1, 2, yeah, with the card to spare even.
The Knight of the Ebon Legion, the one good thing for Riku, the Knight of the Ebon Legion is a 6/7 next turn. So Kristoff might just have to chump here.
Really interesting stuff, that last
This
sequence.
is big. That was big. Scorching Dragonfire. Yeah, you want to untap here. Now you can Scorching Dragonfire to Kaito Freebooter, block Knight of the Ebon Legion. When Riku chooses to pump the Knight of the Ebon Legion, boom, Justice Strike, Knight of the Ebon Legion will kill itself.
Oh, that is brutal. How much of that information was given away by the fact that Prince was willing to play his land untapped to go to 6 there, I wonder?
Well, he could also just be representing a Shark Typhoon for 2 here, right?
Sure.
So I think at this point, Riku can't really play around too much. There's an Uro on the battlefield. This forces the action, and I think this is going to turn this game around.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, this is brutal.
Christoph Prince playing beautifully here, finding the subtle line, finds the Scorching Dragonfire critically off the top of the library,
no.
and that is going to allow this to be a complete disaster here for Riku Kumagai. At the end of this, he's going to have no board whatsoever, and he's facing down an Uro with his aggro deck. This is exactly where you don't want to be. There's a Knight of the Ebon Legion, but that's certainly not going to be enough once Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, starts attacking.
Right. I'm curious to see if we're going to see Castle Vantress activation. Nope.
Super interesting combat step 2 turns ago. I wonder if Kumagai, he was considering not attacking with the freebooter because he's all right. If you make a 2/2 shark, I don't want to lose it here. If Prince, if you don't attack with it and makes the 2/2 shark, you can just say sure. You can just say sure. Block.
Exactly.
No problem. But he didn't want to give up the freebooter. That was the critical juncture there, because otherwise he could just not cast Swift End, right?
Exactly. So given that sequence that occurred, that's what Riku was weighing. He was thinking, okay, what if that happens, and maybe determine that's just too unlikely. Maybe I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to run into that. And ultimately, that's exactly what happened. He got punished maximally for that. And Christoph with that Scorching Dragonfire, this is going to be a really tough game for Rico to come back from.
Wow. That last 2-turn sequence from Christoph Prince was masterful, and it looks like it's going to win him this match as well, because he was in a very tough position where it started to feel like one of those games where the opponent goes to 5, yet it's slipping away because they have enough early action to pressure you, and now it doesn't feel like that at all. Now it feels like this is a runaway train in the other direction.
Yeah, that was huge. Cycling for 2 and keeping up expansion because you know your opponent's going to have the removal spell there.
That's right. And it's just Uro for days, 2 in the yard, 1 on the battlefield, 1 in your hand. But you know what? That's really not the worst place to be in here.
Yeah, you're basically just out racing Riku currently, right? You're attacking for 6, gaining 3. Reclamation not the worst because the mono black deck, it might be able to put a lot of big creatures on the battlefield. Doesn't have a ton of reach. I know he did choose the bottom. I guess he does have a lot of mana in play.
Finds himself another land with the Uro attack, but this is over half of Riku's remaining life total here. He's down to 5. And meanwhile, Christoph Prince is going to be up to 17 at this point.
Wow, that was also a good draw.
Yeah, there's a glass casket to deal with the Knight of the Ebon Legion here, and it really doesn't feel like there's a way out for Kumagai at this point. So close. Found himself significantly ahead, but that one combat was disastrous for him, and he's not going to be able to recover, it looks like.
Yeah, now at this point, he's just way too far behind. That is the one issue with the mono black deck, right? If your opponent does manage to stabilize, it doesn't really have the tools to really claw back into a match.
A little bit irony here, the Kitesail Freebooter takes away Solar Blaze, which is the card that Christoph has no interest in casting at this point since he's ahead on board. Growth Spiral off the top, but may as well attack first. It is a lethal attack that's going to force a chump block of some sort.
Before damage, explosion in your face.
Oh, okay. There you go. And that's going to be the game and the match. Christoph Prince wins 2 games to 1 and puts himself into the championship, knocking Riku Kumagai down to the lower finals. But if you are a fan of Riku Kumagai, don't worry. He's still in the tournament. That was not his elimination. He still gets to play again. But as it stands, it's going to be Christoph Prince with another great performance advancing to the final.
And what a well-played turn. Again, that sequence at the very end was extremely pivotal in determining who wins that match, right? Oftentimes, when you see a Shark Typhoon, you cycle for the full amount, right? And you want to get that good trade in. But knowing that Riku very likely has a spell and kind of playing into that with the expansion was what was able to turn that around. So again, I just want to mention Christoph Prince played that game beautifully.
Super impressive stuff from both players, I have to say. But we actually had a chance to catch up with Christoph Prince.
I mean, with Christoph Prince, who has just dispatched an opponent that you, Christoph, described as the worst matchup for you in the top 8. Must feel very good to have gotten away with it against Mono Black Aggro.
Sure does. I did not expect to win this match.
Yeah, it did look a little dicey there at times, but obviously the post-board interaction actually came through for you, the glass caskets and even stuff like expansion on a Murderous Rider to keep the heat down. So, I mean, what were you expecting heading into this? Did you just think you'd lost it? Did you think you had much of a chance?
Like, I don't think I had much of a chance game one with having dead cards and him being on the play, but postboard I at least thought I had a fair chance when I was on the play and was like a slight underdog when I was on the draw. Unfortunately, it still worked out for me.
Now, obviously, Riku goes down to face Michael Jacobs in the lower bracket, and the winner of that you'll have to play against in our championship playoff. Now, I mean, I don't want to force you to pick a side here, but who are you hoping to face in the championship match?
I'm not sure. I think those two are the worst possible hits for me in the finals, and I'm not sure which one is worse. So I'm gonna pick my poison. I'd go with playing against Mono Black once more because I played that more. But yeah,
a little more experience in that matchup perhaps might get you across the line. Well, look, mate, the very best of luck to you. Some time now to relax, breathe out, recuperate a little bit, and we will see you in the championship match. Christoph Prince, thanks so much for joining us, and the very best of luck to you.
Thank you for having me.
So that leaves us with one player awaiting the result of another match. The lower finals, the stage has been set, to aggro decks ready to ballot out there. We're going to bring you that right after these messages. And let's see what he finds. This could be it. If he hits well off of this collected company, there's a good chance that Ken will not be able to come back.
Looks like Selfless Spirit plus Deputy Detentions. I decided to go for Spell Queller instead.
Okay, a little bigger.
More toughness.
Yep.
In case he's able to counter the activation by giving the Alcide hexproof.
All right, looks like Karametra's Blessing, though, is going to save.
It's only a 3/3, though. He can't actually...
Yeah, he's offering a trade effectively. But it looks like Kenta says, sure, I'll just take it, I guess. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, 3/4. So it has indestructible and +2/+2. Right, okay. Ken Yukihiro is at a very high life total. Remember, the Alcide has lifelink, so the hit before and the 2 cents have given it that. In the graveyard was Sentinel's Eyes, and if we are just going to straight up race, it will work. Oh, but there's the Nabelgast Herald to tap it down. This is the type of sequencing that Kenta Harane needs to just win without Ken really getting to interact from here on out. Okay, so that resolved. That is the Alcide being tapped. Now he can fire off the Selfless Spirit because he has Rattle Chains on the battlefield. I assume he can't put 18 power in the air for next turn. That seems like a lot, but who knows?
So, I mean, each of those is 3. So if he draws another Lord, his best bet if he draws a Coco into 2 Lords, it's lethal.
Then that would be, yeah.
But barring that, it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's at 14 right now, so a Lord is lethal. And that looks like a Lord.
There it is. Supreme Phantom. Tap down your last creature, and he just has to do the math and line everything up, because if you look at Ken's hand, or excuse me, at his board, he just has the 1 plains left over, and that's a lethal attack. Kenta Harane is your champion for Players Tour Nagoya. Congratulations. It's nice to see that, by the way. Little face-to-face interaction here, right? Sometimes when you play games a lot, you can feel a little disconnected from your opponent, but it's one of the great benefits to our game is these two gentlemen will remember this moment for the rest of their lives. Matt did find land source number 2, Blinkmoth Nexus, and now he has the Steel Overseer. But this is going to be a huge blowout here.
This is so rough.
Eli Loveman runs out the Izzet Staticaster, takes down the Overseer, and strands the other 2 in hand for Matt Sperling.
Matt Sperling will sacrifice the Ornithopter, but this game is over.
Sperling finds cranial plating, but he's just down to 3 permanents left on the battlefield. Eli Loveman with the Izzet Staticaster and the double Mantis Rider draw has put too much pressure on Sperling. He's dwindled his resources. He's super far ahead, and he even has that extra copy of Phantasmal Image at the ready. So first things first, hit you for 6 damage.
That's a lot of exalted triggers.
Again, Matt has options here as far as blocking goes. He doesn't actually need to. He's going to fall down to 4 life.
So Champion of the Parish here, and then I can see a Phantasmal Image here being played, maybe copying Reflector Mage targeting the Arcbound Ravager, but
that would do it. There it is, Galvanic Blast off the top of the library. It is completely uncastable as it has been this entire game, and we are on the verge of our champion. There's another Reflector Mage off the top of the library as well to send the last creature packing on the battlefield. There it is, Reflector Mage on the stack. Sperling's going to think about it and scoop up his permanents. We have our champion. Eli Loveman of the United States is your Mythic Championship winner here from London. Congratulations, Eli.
Hey everybody, welcome back to coverage of the Players Tour Finals here from our virtual news desk. Mary Bertholdi along with Cedric Phillips and Riley and I coming to you from all over the world, beamed right into your home. Some amazing magic today. Let's look at our bracket here for the top 8 of the Players Tour Finals as we inch ever closer towards our championship match. And indeed, we have one person waiting an opponent, and that is Christoph Prince. He will be in the championship match, but who will he face? Either Riku Kumagai or Michael Jacob. Remember, Christoph Prince is our lone reclamation player standing, half of the metagame day 1, half of the metagame day 2, and now half of the finals. I think it just suits. But which of the 2 challenger decks, as we've dubbed them, will be good enough to go up against this reclamation deck in the grand finals? Cedric, we've got the lower bracket finals coming up. How are you feeling?
Well, I, as you know, love aggressive strategies, so I'm not upset or sad about this, but man, Christoph Prince he will not die. You know, that matchup is absolutely horrible for him, but he played it a very, very impressive game number 3 to slide on to that grand finals. Now, the fun part about this is we've got, I have so many questions, right? Because these are 2 aggressive decks that no one was prepared for. So how much is Michael Jacob played against Mono Black Aggro? Probably like none. How much is Mono Black Aggro Kumagai played against Mardu Winoda? These players might just be playing like just on their feet, just guessing how to sideboard, guessing how to play the games. That makes for some fun magic, especially this deep into a tournament.
I love it. Creature on creature battles here in the feature match area, the way Magic was intended, if you ask me. Riley, how are you feeling going into the lower finals?
Yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see who triumphs here. Either way, we're going to have a spicy one in the final face-off, Christoph Prince. But I really want to talk about Prince and his performance this weekend because it really just has been a masterclass. He went 9-0 in the Swiss to begin with before picking up a loss in round like 450 or whatever. So he really has been running the tables. And now in the top 8, he doesn't look like... Again, there's just no brakes on the Prince train. He also seems to be in a decent spot. I had a chat with him earlier. We saw the interview there as well. But I caught up with him briefly after that as well. Seems to be doing what he needs to do to keep himself in a good space. And this is always something I like to explore with players, getting away from the gameplay, talking about their psychological headspace, talking about where they're at sort of emotionally at a high pressure, high intensity time like this. And Prince seems to be pretty chilled out. He seems to be in a position. He's going to kick back. He's going to relax. He's going to maybe watch some streams, watch a bit of the coverage, see how he goes. But honestly, look, I've been really impressed with the way that he's conducted himself as an underdog, as a dark horse in this tournament. He certainly has made a name for himself with a very, very triumphant and very convincing performance so far.
Let's meet the 2 players here to do battle in our lower finals. We've seen them playing all morning long and indeed all tournament long. 2 of my personal favorite decks meeting head-to-head here in the lowers. Michael Jacob with Mardu Winoda and Riku Kumagai on Mono Black Aggro. Let's take a look now at some highlights from Michael Jacob's road to getting to where he is here, playing in the lower finals of this top 8, Riley.
Yeah, it's been incredible from MJ. I mean, look, he was a man with a plan. He came into this top 8 with a deck that really had just completely taken the world by surprise last weekend, and seems to just go from strength to strength. Although did have a rough bounce in the first matchup against Alan Wu, Mulligan, and a couple of other things not really going his way. But from there, There have been no brakes on the MJ train. The big whiff with the Winota was not enough to prevent him from dispatching Raf Levy, the Hall of Famer. It was his turn to be on the side of some unfortunate draws, and then look at this, building out a massive board that Levy just couldn't answer, and so Jacob progressed and looked to do it with style as well, and of course with a certain amount of flair, a deck that, again, no one was prepared for. Christopher Larson certainly wasn't, and once again Winota doing her grim reaping and taking the Dane down. Now look, Larson played a very, very close one. He got he got Jacob down to 1 there, but it wasn't enough. And finally, MJ picking up a win in the grudge match against Wu, righting that previous wrong and eating up another reclamation player as he'd been doing last weekend. And so now MJ finds himself with a sniff at a chance here, getting into the championship playoff while fighting against Riku Kumagai. 2 aggro decks going at it at hammer and tongs here. And Michael Jacob with his incredibly exciting, incredibly innovative Mardu list. Certainly there are going to be fireworks any way you slice it.
Thanks so much, Riley. Here's a look at Michael Jacobs' Mardu Winota list if you haven't gotten a peek at it yet this weekend. Cedric, you got to talk to us now about how the heck this deck fares up against another aggressive deck, because we have literally never talked about that.
Yeah, we haven't really had to analyze this, right? That's not what this tournament was about. It was about beating reclamation strategies, and then there were some known aggressive strategies coming in. Mono White Aggro had a nice performance at that Red Bull qualifier. We've seen Mono Green do well in the arena ladder, but Mono Black and Mardu Winota are unknown quantities leading into this tournament. We know that they're both pretty darn good now. Here's what I think for MJ's matchup. Outside of Heartless Axe, and there is, some copies of Murderous Rider kind of hanging around, he's kind of free to do what he wants to do. And that means that he's going to be able to lean on those Venerated Loxodon draws with some amount of regularity. Yes, Duress can raise the alarm, but past that, it can't touch anything here in game number 1. So as far as what I'm looking at for Michael Jacob in this matchup, he should just be able to enact his game plan and not have to worry about too much else. And as we move over that Mono Black deck list here in a moment, I do get to point out one glaring issue here for Kumagai, which is Hunted Nightmare. Generally, the drawback this entire tournament has been non-existent. You think when it enters the battlefield, target opponent puts a death touch counter on a creature they control. Well, most decks don't have creatures. These reclamation strategies don't have them. We saw Kumagai use that to great impact against the reclamation decks he's played all weekend long. Jacob's entire deck is creatures, which means that double blocking this thing is not going to be difficult at all if it comes down to that. So this is a spot where Hunted Nightmare is not particularly good. Does it get sideboarded out? We'll have to see. But looking at these two deck lists, just comparing the two, this isn't what either player wants to play against. But I think it favors Jacob because Jacob's deck is more explosive, assuming he gets to do what he wants to do, because there's nothing that Kumagai can do that's as powerful as Winota triggers in this going nuts.
Well, we'll see if Michael Jacob can spin to win once again, or if Mono Black will take the day. It's time for the lower finals, because we need another grand finalist coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Don't move.
Cry of the Carnarium.
Do you counter this? I don't think so.
You just let it happen.
You have a 3/3.
It
You
is
have a 3/3 Terramander.
Yeah, you can just let it happen. Well, it's 3 damage in. Again, the Terramander cannot be adapted. It already has a +1/+1 counter on it.
I don't think you can block here. If you block, you are not giving yourself the best shot at winning, I think.
If you're in a Kawa's seat, you think you just have to hold your breath and take the 3 here.
And yeah, it's a random card for Burchett. If that's, the hard counter that loses you the game, so be it.
But Birch, oh my goodness, it was
Wow,
a hard
it
counter.
actually is the hard counter that's going to lose
that
Ikawa
hand.
the game.
2 Wizard's Retorts and a Spell Pierce.
Ikawa can still chump block this turn.
Right.
But chump blocking is unlikely to win him the game here.
Is there anything good under there, or is Autumn Burchett your first Mythic Championship winner?
That's just
from
a dive
England?
down. He missed.
He missed.
He effectively missed here.
Autumn Burchett is simply looking on and saying, what do you want to do, Ikawa? Because they know in hand are a pair of Wizard's Retorts and an effectively unbeatable situation for Autumn Burchett. This is incredible stuff down the stretch here as Ikawa tries to figure out if there's any possible way for him to get out of this, but there isn't.
Beautiful, beautiful sequencing, prioritization, really valuing what is important here.
And there's Kaya's Wrath. That is going to be met with a counter spell.
And is this going to be it? Are we going to see the hand get extended? This is it. Counterspell number 2 for Autumn Burchett, and England has a Mythic Championship winner, and it's Autumn Burchett.